The thunderstorm that rolled across rural Montana on that devastating October night brought more than just rain and lightning to Millfield County. When the storm finally passed at dawn, local farmer Henry Davidson made a discovery that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Two emaciated bulls huddled together in an abandoned field, barely clinging to life after being cruelly dumped and left to die. Jack, a massive Angus bull with a distinctive white patch on his forehead, was in slightly better condition than his companion Buddy, a smaller Hereford who appeared to be suffering from severe malnutrition and what looked like untreated injuries. The two animals were pressed against each other for warmth, their bond already evident despite their desperate circumstances. "I've been farming for 40 years and I've never seen anything like this," Henry told his wife Margaret as he called the local veterinarian and animal control authorities. "These bulls have been deliberately abandoned. Someone just dumped them here and drove away, leaving them to starve or freeze to death." Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the county's large animal veterinarian, arrived within an hour and was appalled by what she found. Both bulls were severely underweight, dehydrated, and showing signs of prolonged neglect. Buddy, in particular, had infected wounds on his legs that suggested he had been kept in deplorable conditions before being abandoned. "This is one of the worst cases of animal cruelty I've encountered in my practice," Dr. Mitchell explained as she began emergency treatment. "Jack appears to be about 7 years old and weighs at least 400 pounds less than he should. Buddy is younger, maybe 5, and he's in critical condition. Without immediate intervention, neither of them would have survived another week." What struck everyone who witnessed the scene was the unwavering loyalty the two bulls showed toward each other. Despite their own suffering, Jack refused to leave Buddy's side during the veterinary examination, positioning himself protectively near his friend and making soft, reassuring sounds whenever Buddy showed signs of distress. "It's remarkable," observed Sheriff Tom Bradley, who was documenting the scene for the animal cruelty investigation. "Most cattle are social animals, but the bond between these two goes beyond normal herd behavior. Jack is clearly trying to protect and comfort Buddy, even though he's barely strong enough to stand himself." The rescue operation required careful planning due to the bulls' weakened condition and their obvious attachment to each other. Dr. Mitchell knew that separating them during transport could cause additional stress that might prove fatal, especially for Buddy, whose condition remained critical. Henry Davidson, despite having no previous experience with cattle rescue, immediately offered his farm as a temporary sanctuary. "I can't just stand by and watch these animals suffer," he told his wife. "We have the barn space and the pasture. Maybe we can give them a chance to recover." Margaret Davidson was initially hesitant about taking on such a massive responsibility, especially given the potential medical costs and the fact that they had no experience caring for traumatized cattle. But when she saw Jack gently nuzzling Buddy's injured head while the veterinarian worked, her heart was moved beyond any practical concerns. "Those two have been through hell together," she said quietly. "The least we can do is give them a safe place to heal." The transport to Davidson Farm required a specially equipped trailer and extreme caution. Both bulls were loaded together, with Jack remaining calm only as long as he could see and touch his companion. The 15-minute journey seemed to take hours as everyone involved held their breath, praying that both animals would survive the move. Once safely in the Davidson's barn, Jack immediately positioned himself between Buddy and any humans who approached, his protective instincts overriding his own need for medical attention. Dr. Mitchell had to sedate Jack slightly before she could complete Buddy's treatment, as the larger bull became increasingly agitated whenever anyone touched his friend. "I've never seen such devotion between animals," Dr. Mitchell recorded in her treatment notes. "Jack's entire focus is on Buddy's welfare, even though he's suffering from serious health problems himself. This level of emotional attachment suggests they've been together for a significant period and have likely survived previous trauma as a team." As the first night fell at Davidson Farm, Henry and Margaret took turns checking on their unexpected guests. They found Jack lying protectively beside Buddy, who was still too weak to stand for extended periods. Despite their own pain and exhaustion, the two bulls had found comfort in their unbreakable bond. But as dawn broke over Montana, critical questions remained unanswered. Who had abandoned these magnificent animals, and would their love for each other be enough to help them survive the long road to recovery that lay ahead? The first week at Davidson Farm tested everyone's resolve as Jack and Buddy fought for their lives with a determination that amazed their caregivers. Dr. Mitchell visited twice daily, monitoring their progress and adjusting treatment protocols based on their response to medication and nutritional support. Buddy's condition remained the most critical concern. The smaller bull had developed a severe respiratory infection that threatened to overwhelm his already weakened immune system. His breathing was labored, his fever spiked dangerously high during the nights, and there were moments when Dr. Mitchell feared they might lose him despite their best efforts. The next 48 hours will be crucial, Dr. Mitchell explained to Henry and Margaret during one of her evening visits. Buddy's body is fighting multiple infections simultaneously, and his malnutrition has compromised his ability to heal. Without Jack's presence, I don't think he would have made it this far. Jack seemed to understand that his friend was in grave danger. The larger bull barely left Buddy's side, lying down beside him during the worst periods and standing guard when visitors approached. Most remarkably, Jack appeared to be encouraging Buddy to eat and drink, gently nudging food toward his friend and positioning his own body to block cold drafts from reaching the sick bull. Margaret Davidson found herself becoming emotionally invested in their recovery in ways she hadn't expected. "I catch myself checking on them every few hours," she confided to her husband. "There's something about watching Jack care for Buddy that reminds me that love and loyalty aren't uniquely human qualities." If this incredible story of friendship and survival against all odds touches your heart, we'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us share more amazing stories like this one about the unbreakable bonds that can form between animals. Every subscription and like means the world to us and helps these heartwarming tales reach people who need to see that miracles happen when love refuses to give up. Thank you for being part of our community that celebrates the incredible power of loyalty and compassion. The breakthrough came on the 8th night, when Margaret made her usual late evening check and found Buddy standing on his own for the first time since his arrival. Jack was beside him, and both bulls were sharing hay from the same feeding station. The sight brought tears to Margaret's eyes as she realized they had turned a crucial corner in their recovery. "Henry, come quickly," she called to her husband. "They're both eating together." Dr. Mitchell's examination the following morning confirmed what everyone hoped. Buddy's fever had broken, his breathing had improved significantly, and his infected wounds were finally beginning to heal properly. The veterinarian attributed his turnaround partly to medical treatment, but equally to Jack's unwavering support and companionship. "Animals heal better when they have emotional support, just like humans do," Dr. Mitchell explained. "Jack has essentially served as Buddy's therapy partner throughout this crisis. His presence has reduced Buddy's stress levels, encouraged him to eat, and provided the motivation to keep fighting when giving up would have been easier." As Buddy's strength returned, the true nature of their relationship became even more apparent. The two bulls had developed their own communication system, with specific sounds and gestures that seemed to convey complex messages about their needs, fears, and comfort levels. Jack would alert Henry to problems with Buddy's condition before humans could detect the issues themselves. Sheriff Bradley's investigation into their abandonment had uncovered disturbing information. The bulls had apparently been owned by an illegal cattle operation that had been shut down by authorities 3 counties away. Rather than surrendering the animals to proper authorities, the operators had simply loaded the bulls into a trailer and dumped them in the remote field where Henry found them. "What makes this case particularly heinous," Sheriff Bradley explained, "is that these bulls were clearly bonded companions, and the perpetrators deliberately abandoned them together, knowing they would either die together or suffer separately if one survived longer than the other." The criminal investigation was complicated by the fact that the illegal operation had involved multiple jurisdictions and the original owners had fled the state. However, the Davidson family was assured that Jack and Buddy would not be reclaimed by anyone connected to their previous situation. As the second week progressed, both bulls showed remarkable improvement. Jack had gained nearly 50 pounds, his coat was beginning to regain its natural luster, and his energy levels were steadily increasing. Buddy, while still the smaller and more fragile of the two, was eating regularly, moving around the pasture, and showing signs of the playful personality that had been suppressed by trauma and illness. Dr. Mitchell was amazed by their recovery rate. "I've seen many cases of animal abuse and neglect, but I've rarely witnessed such a rapid turnaround. The bond between Jack and Buddy has literally saved both their lives. They're healing each other through their companionship. Henry and Margaret found themselves becoming more than temporary caregivers. They were becoming emotionally attached to the bulls and beginning to consider what their long-term future might look like. The question was no longer whether Jack and Buddy would survive, but what kind of life they could build together after such a traumatic beginning. How will Jack and Buddy adapt to their new life of safety and care? And what challenges will emerge as they transition from survival mode to learning to trust humans again? 3 months after their rescue, Jack and Buddy had transformed from dying animals into magnificent examples of what proper care and genuine affection could accomplish. Their physical recovery had been remarkable, but their emotional healing was proving to be a more complex and fascinating process that amazed everyone who witnessed it. Henry Davidson had become an unlikely expert on bull behavior through necessity and observation. "You can see their personalities emerging more each day," he explained to Dr. Mitchell during one of her routine visits. "Jack is the protector and leader, always checking for threats and making sure Buddy feels safe. Buddy is more curious and playful, but he still looks to Jack for approval before trying anything new." The trust-building process had required infinite patience from the Davidson family. For the first month, both bulls remained extremely wary of human contact, allowing necessary medical care, but showing obvious stress whenever people approached too quickly or made unexpected movements. Jack, in particular, positioned himself between Buddy and any potential threats, including the humans who were trying to help them. Margaret had discovered that the key to earning their trust was consistency and respect for their boundaries. "I started by simply sitting near their pen and reading aloud," she explained to visiting family members. "I wanted them to get used to my voice and presence without feeling pressured to interact. Eventually, Jack started moving closer when I was there, and Buddy followed his lead. The breakthrough moment came when Buddy, who had always been more naturally curious, approached Margaret while she was cleaning their water trough. Instead of trying to pet him immediately, Margaret remained still and allowed the bull to investigate her on his own terms. When Buddy gently sniffed her hand without backing away, it marked the first voluntary, positive interaction between the bulls and their human caregivers. "That was the moment I knew we were making real progress," Margaret recalled. "Buddy's willingness to approach me was his way of saying he was starting to trust that not all humans would hurt him. And when Jack saw that Buddy was comfortable with me, his guard started to come down too." Dr. Mitchell had been documenting their behavioral recovery as part of a research project on trauma rehabilitation in large animals. "What we're seeing with Jack and Buddy challenges conventional wisdom about how quickly cattle can recover from severe abuse," she noted. "Their bond with each other has accelerated their healing process in ways that wouldn't be possible if they were being rehabilitated individually." The most remarkable aspect of their recovery was how their relationship with each other continued to evolve and deepen. As their physical health improved and their environment became more secure, Jack and Buddy developed what could only be described as a sophisticated partnership for navigating their new world. They had established routines that demonstrated their interdependence and mutual care. Every morning, Jack would perform what Henry called a safety check of their pasture, walking the perimeter and investigating any changes from the previous day. Only after Jack completed this inspection would Buddy venture out to graze, confident that his friend had determined their environment was secure. During feeding time, Jack consistently ensured that Buddy had access to the best portions of hay and grain, sometimes even pushing his own food toward his friend if he sensed Buddy was still hungry. This behavior puzzled experts, as bulls are typically competitive around food resources. Jack's protective behavior toward Buddy goes far beyond normal herd dynamics, observed Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, an animal behaviorist who had come to study their relationship. "He's demonstrating what we might call altruistic behavior, consistently prioritizing Buddy's welfare over his own immediate needs." The Davidson family had also noticed that the bulls had different responses to various family members. Jack remained somewhat aloof from Henry, respecting him but maintaining a careful distance. However, he showed genuine affection toward Margaret, often approaching the fence when she appeared and allowing her to scratch behind his ears. Buddy, meanwhile, had developed a special attachment to the Davidsons' teenage granddaughter, Emma, who visited every weekend. The young bull would become visibly excited when Emma's car pulled into the driveway, and he would follow her around the perimeter of his pasture during her visits. Emma has this natural way with animals, Margaret explained. She doesn't try to force interactions, and she seems to understand that Buddy needs to feel in control of how much contact he has. Their friendship has been beautiful to watch develop. As winter approached, the Davidson family faced important decisions about Jack and Buddy's future. The bulls had clearly thrived at the farm, but maintaining them was expensive, and Henry and Margaret were approaching retirement age. They needed to determine whether they could provide a permanent home for the bulls or if they should begin looking for an appropriate sanctuary placement. The local community had become invested in Jack and Buddy's story, with neighbors frequently stopping by to check on their progress and offering donations to help with feed and veterinary costs. The local newspaper had featured their rescue story, generating wider awareness and support for their continued care. These bulls have become symbols of resilience and hope for our entire community, noted Pastor Williams from the local church, which had organized a fundraising drive. Their story reminds us that love and loyalty can overcome even the worst circumstances, and that second chances can lead to beautiful transformations. As the first snow began to fall on Davidson Farm, Jack and Buddy stood together in their shelter, healthy, safe, and surrounded by people who cared about their welfare. Their journey from abandonment to security had been remarkable, but their greatest adventures together were still ahead. What new opportunities and challenges await Jack and Buddy as their story spreads beyond their local community? And how will their unbreakable bond continue to inspire others? 6 months after their rescue, Jack and Buddy had become local celebrities whose story of survival and friendship had captured the attention of animal welfare advocates across the region. Their remarkable recovery and unbreakable bond had inspired dozens of visitors to make the journey to Davidson Farm, hoping to witness firsthand the power of resilience and companionship. Dr. Rodriguez had completed her behavioral study and published findings that were generating significant interest in the veterinary and animal psychology communities. Jack and Buddy represent a unique case study in trauma recovery and interspecies emotional support, she explained during a presentation at the State University. Their relationship demonstrates cognitive and emotional capabilities in cattle that we're only beginning to understand. The attention had brought unexpected opportunities for the Davidson family, but also new responsibilities they hadn't anticipated. Margaret found herself fielding calls from researchers, documentary filmmakers, and animal sanctuary directors who wanted to learn more about the bull's recovery process. "We never expected to become advocates for animal welfare," Margaret admitted to her husband one evening as they watched Jack and Buddy grazing peacefully in their pasture. "But seeing what these two have overcome makes you realize how many other animals might be suffering in silence, waiting for someone to care enough to help them." The most significant development came when Peaceful Haven Animal Sanctuary, a nationally recognized rescue organization, reached out with a proposal that would change Jack and Buddy's lives forever. The sanctuary's director, Michael Thompson, had driven from Colorado specifically to meet the bulls and assess their potential as therapy animals. "What I see here is extraordinary," Thompson told the Davidson family after spending several hours observing Jack and Buddy's interactions with visitors. "These bulls have developed the kind of gentle, intuitive nature that makes exceptional therapy animals. Their story of overcoming trauma together could provide hope and healing for humans who are dealing with their own challenges." Thompson's proposal was ambitious but compelling. Peaceful Haven wanted to offer Jack and Buddy a permanent home at their facility where they would live in a spacious, natural environment while serving as ambassadors for animal rescue and therapy partners for visitors dealing with trauma, depression, and other emotional challenges. "The therapeutic value of interacting with animals who have overcome severe adversity is well documented," Thompson explained. "Jack and Buddy's obvious bond and gentle nature could help humans understand that healing is possible, that loyalty matters, and that second chances can lead to beautiful transformations." The offer presented Henry and Margaret with an emotional dilemma. They had grown deeply attached to the bulls and had witnessed their complete transformation from dying animals to thriving, trusting companions. The thought of saying goodbye was heartbreaking, but they also recognized that the sanctuary could provide opportunities and resources that their small farm couldn't match. Emma, the Davidsons' granddaughter, who had formed such a strong connection with Buddy, was initially devastated by the possibility of the bulls leaving. They've been through so much already, she told her grandparents. How can we send them away from the first place where they felt safe? Dr. Mitchell helped the family work through their concerns by facilitating multiple visits to Peaceful Haven, allowing the bulls to gradually acclimate to the new environment while maintaining their connection to the Davidson family. The sanctuary's approach impressed everyone involved, as they demonstrated genuine commitment to preserving Jack and Buddy's bond while expanding their potential to help others. What convinced me was seeing how Jack and Buddy responded to the other animals at the sanctuary, Henry reflected. They weren't stressed or frightened. They were curious and engaged. And when some of the sanctuary's therapy animals approached them, both bulls showed the same gentle, protective instincts they've always had with each other. The transition process took several months, with Jack and Buddy spending increasing amounts of time at Peaceful Haven while maintaining their connection to Davidson Farm. This gradual approach allowed them to develop relationships with sanctuary staff and other animals while ensuring that the change didn't traumatize them or damage their bond. The most touching moment came when Jack and Buddy met their first therapy client at the sanctuary, a military veteran named David who was struggling with PTSD and had lost faith in his ability to trust anyone again. When David approached their pasture, both bulls seemed to sense his emotional pain and responded with the same intuitive gentleness they had shown throughout their recovery. Those bulls understood something about me that I couldn't even understand about myself, David later shared. Watching them support each other through whatever they'd been through helped me realize that healing doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means learning to trust again, despite what you've experienced. Margaret Davidson documented the transition in a journal that would later become part of a book about Jack and Buddy's journey. Letting them go to the sanctuary wasn't losing them, she wrote. It was giving them the opportunity to share their gift with people who need to see that survival is possible, that loyalty exists, and that love can overcome even the darkest circumstances. As Jack and Buddy settled into their new home at Peaceful Haven, their story continued to spread through social media, news coverage, and word-of-mouth recommendations from people whose lives they had touched. Their transformation from abandoned, dying animals to therapy partners and symbols of hope represented something profound about the resilience of the spirit and the healing power of unconditional friendship. How will Jack and Buddy's new role as therapy animals impact the lives of the people they meet? And what lasting changes will their story create in the world of animal rescue and rehabilitation? 2 years after their rescue from that stormy Montana field, Jack and Buddy had become the most beloved residents of Peaceful Haven Animal Sanctuary, where their story of survival and unbreakable friendship had touched the lives of thousands of visitors and fundamentally changed how people understood the emotional capacity of farm animals. Their transformation into therapy animals had exceeded everyone's expectations. Under the guidance of certified animal therapy specialists, Jack and Buddy had learned to work with people suffering from trauma, depression, anxiety, and PTSD, providing a unique form of healing that traditional therapy alone couldn't achieve. Dr. Patricia Williams, who directed the Sanctuary's therapy program, had documented remarkable results from sessions involving Jack and Buddy. We've seen breakthrough moments that typically take months of conventional therapy happen in single sessions with these bulls, she explained. Their ability to sense emotional pain and respond with appropriate comfort seems almost supernatural. The bulls' most profound impact had been on children who had experienced abuse or neglect. Something about Jack and Buddy's own survival story resonated deeply with young people who had faced similar abandonment and trauma. The bulls' gentle nature and obvious devotion to each other provided a living example that healing was possible and that trust could be rebuilt. 10-year-old Sarah, who had been removed from an abusive home situation, initially refused to speak to counselors or participate in traditional therapy sessions. But during her first visit to meet Jack and Buddy, she spent 2 hours sitting quietly near their fence, eventually opening up to the therapy coordinator about her fears and pain. Those bulls understand what it feels like to be hurt by people who were supposed to take care of them, Sarah told her caseworker. But they're not mean or angry. They just love each other and trust the good people who help them now. Maybe I can learn to do that too. Michael Thompson had expanded the Sanctuary's programs based on Jack and Buddy's success, creating specialized therapy tracks for veterans, abuse survivors, individuals with disabilities, and families dealing with grief and loss. The waiting list for sessions had grown to over 6 months, with people traveling from across the country to experience the healing power of the bull's presence. The most remarkable session occurred when Jack and Buddy worked with Marcus, a combat veteran who had attempted suicide multiple times and had given up on traditional treatment approaches. Marcus arrived at the sanctuary angry, skeptical, and resistant to any form of therapy, but something changed when he met the bulls. I looked at Jack protecting Buddy and Buddy trusting Jack completely, and I realized I'd forgotten what loyalty looked like, Marcus shared during a follow-up interview. These animals had every reason to give up on life, to stop trusting anyone, but they chose to take care of each other instead. If they could do that after what they'd been through, maybe I could find a reason to keep fighting too. Marcus became a regular volunteer at the sanctuary, helping with animal care and sharing his story with other veterans who came for therapy sessions. His transformation was so dramatic that the Department of Veterans Affairs began studying the sanctuary's programs as a model for alternative PTSD treatment approaches. The scientific community had also taken notice of Jack and Buddy's unique abilities. Researchers from multiple universities were conducting studies on their emotional intelligence, their communication patterns, and their apparent ability to sense and respond to human emotional distress. What we're learning from Jack and Buddy is revolutionizing our understanding of animal cognition and empathy, explained Dr. Jennifer Hayes, a leading researcher in animal-assisted therapy. Their behavior suggests that cattle possess emotional and social intelligence capabilities that we've dramatically underestimated. The bull's story had inspired changes in animal welfare policies and rescue protocols across the country. Their case had been cited in congressional hearings about animal cruelty legislation, and their recovery process had become a model for rehabilitation programs at sanctuaries nationwide. Margaret Davidson, who remained closely involved in Jack and Buddy's lives, had written a book about their journey titled Unbreakable: How Two Bulls Taught the World About Love and Loyalty. The book had become a bestseller, with proceeds supporting animal rescue organizations and therapy programs. Jack and Buddy's story isn't really about bulls, Margaret wrote in her conclusion. It's about the power of refusing to give up on each other, about finding hope in the darkest circumstances, and about the healing that happens when love refuses to be defeated by trauma. As visitors watched Jack and Buddy grazing peacefully in their sanctuary home, it was impossible to imagine that these magnificent, gentle animals had once been dying in an abandoned field. Their scars had healed, their trust had been restored, and their bond had grown even stronger through their shared mission of helping others heal. The bulls seemed to understand the importance of their work. During therapy sessions, they displayed an intuitive ability to adjust their behavior based on each visitor's needs, approaching cautiously with nervous children, standing patiently with grieving adults, and providing gentle physical comfort to those who needed reassurance that safety and love were possible. Emma Davidson, now in college studying veterinary medicine, visited regularly and often assisted with therapy sessions. Watching Jack and Buddy work with people reminds me that healing isn't just about fixing what's broken, she reflected. Sometimes it's about learning to love and trust again, and these bulls are the best teachers anyone could ask for. As the sun set over Peaceful Haven Animal Sanctuary, Jack and Buddy stood together in their pasture, their silhouettes a testament to the power of friendship, resilience, and hope. Their journey from abandonment to purpose had created ripples of healing that would continue to spread for generations, proving that sometimes the most profound teachers come in the most unexpected forms. What lasting impact will Jack and Buddy's story have on future animal rescue efforts and our understanding of the deep emotional connections that exist between all living beings?